Good evening, everyone. My name is Hannah Hostick. I'm co-president of the Friends of the Sterling Road Library, a group that now numbers over 530 people, thanks to many of the people here who have spread the news, and we are delighted. I'm here to let you know about a few programs that are happening at the library. Most importantly, because it's coming up this Sunday, is the second in our series on history, and it's with Annette. One second, let me get the, all right, it's by Annette Isaacs, and the series is on iconic innovators. This week at 2:00, she'll be speaking about Bertha Benz and the history of the German automobile. That's only if this week is July 28th. Oh, it is. Okay, great. Phew. Okay. And then she'll speak again in August, on August 25th, on the life and times of Margaret Steiff, and it's about the teddy bear. We have our usual programs this week. I have a secret to share with you, but you cannot tell anyone because it is it's sort of confirmed, but we want to make sure it's completely confirmed, which is at our annual meeting in September. We'll have Robert Watson, who will come and speak about the election. And I think that's going to be a very interesting and helpful program. It's the third week in September on a Tuesday night, and we hope that we'll see you all there. We also have another week of yoga, really a lot of programs going on. So you should check your newsletter. If you're not yet a friend, I hope you'll consider becoming a friend. Membership starts at $10, goes up to thousands of dollars. We are a library that is supported very strongly by its friends, and it's because of people like you that we're able to present incredible, high-quality programs like Shelley Isaacs. And so we are so pleased that he is here doing his series, and he and I were just speaking about whether or not people would be interested in having Shelley come live one Sunday at the library. We would show a film, and then he would discuss the film in person. So I can see heads shaking, Shelley. I mean, I don't think we have to be at all concerned about whether or not we'll have attendance. I'm sure we will. So it's something that we're going to plan for the fall, and we'll keep you all updated on that. So with no further ado, Shelley, it's all yours.
Thank you, Hannah. I think my parents would have been delighted to hear me called high quality. Anyway, it's nice to see everybody. I can even say hello quickly. Hi, Susan Pauls, Eileen, Barbara Tate.
Shelley, I muted you, I think. Oh, wait, okay, sorry. You have to unmute.
Yes. Did everybody hear me just now?
No, start again
No.
about your parents.
Why? Okay. What I started out by saying was I think my parents would have been proud to hear me called high quality. Anyway, it's nice to see everybody. I ran through a fast list of names because it's so nice to see everybody. Susan Pauls, Eileen, Barbara, Joni, Rachel, Susan, Linda, Marilyn and Mel, Karen, Jackie and Larry, Carol Winter. Okay, I see Joanna, Alice, and Mindy. I think I got everybody. Okay, so welcome back. And this month, the two films were really about two separate women's stories overcoming adversity, or a particular adversity in their life, a crisis or trauma, whatever. The first one we saw was Full Time, and this one is Things to Come, or in the French title is L'avenir, or The Future. But what's really interesting about both, and why I chose both, was because of the performances of the two actresses. Two very powerful performances. The film was directed by a young woman. Her name is Mia Hansen-Love. The film is from 2016. She is among a group of award-winning highly acclaimed young French filmmakers, directors, whose body of work mostly revolve around familial and romantic relationships and their effects. She has said that while all her films are personal, they are not autobiographical. In fact, where Things to Come is concerned, both her parents, you should understand, are philosophy professors and were divorced when she was in her 20s. So this cuts close to the bone. This cuts close to the bone. Anyway, with a keenly observed exploration of a woman in midlife, we watch that life unfold before our eyes. The detailed tapestry as she moves through an important transition. It was highly critically acclaimed by critics worldwide, and it did win a number of awards, also worldwide, from festivals and also academies in certain countries. The film was written with Isabelle Huppert in mind, the star in mind. In fact, you should only know the New York Times ranked her second on its list of the greatest actors of the 21st century. She is considered one of the preeminent actresses of her generation and is the most nominated actress at the French Academy Awards, with 16 overall nominations for Best Actress and 2 wins, as well as many other international accolades. She's also been nominated for Academy Awards. To sum up this film in a sentence, Socrates, the great philosopher, wrote, the unexamined life is not worth living. And how true that is here, because we do see a life that in its total for our character, Natalie, is worth living. And this uncommonly intelligent, soul-searching film explores what it means to create a life of one's own, told with an intellectual, humanist, and a sensualist point of view. It is a story of reinvention, with a commitment to emotional truth, illuminating existence in all its conundrums and complexities. It is also an internal journey told with a certain elegance and clarity, examining how time operates as a force in our lives, time and memory, and how our lives are made up of many parts. When we first see Natalie, she is on a trip with a family. We see her writing the question on a paper: can one put themselves in the place of the other? Well, as we go through this film, if we were to look back at that sentence, it's a direction. It's a direction for us, the audience, and what we will be seeing. And if we are being asked from the outset to put ourselves in Natalie's place. As we move forward in time a few years, we see her as a competent, confident woman. She's a dedicated teacher of philosophy at a Paris high school. And think about that. First of all, that should blow your mind, teaching philosophy in high school. Imagine that here. Teaching philosophy at a Paris high school, and seems to find real value and fulfillment in teaching her students, training them to think for themselves, which we hear that a couple of times during the film, and taking an interest in their lives. Quoting great philosophers, she believes in the discipline of body and soul, telling her students to never, ever give up on the life of the mind. From there, we can intuit that this is a very French film. Also, to clue you in that it's a very French film, they talk about books. They talk about books. They talk about publishing books. They talk about books in school. She even meets, following that beginning, she meets with Fabian, a past student who idolizes her, telling her that she had a tremendous impact on his life and changed his life. And he's now writing. It's again, something interesting that's happening, and something that could take us in a direction, if this is Hollywood, and especially the recent spate of films. And I am glad this film certainly does not go there, about the older woman falling for the younger guy. This is not that kind of film, as we learn. She visits her publisher, where two young marketing people inform her that her textbook needs to be modernized. I love that. They say, we have to modernize it. We have to update it. And they show her designs. I mean, I can just see this happening to certain people. They show her designs of what they want to do with her book. And she looks at it. She says, this looks like you're selling M&Ms. This is a philosophy text. I love that, her reaction to this, and her aplomb at it. And when her kids, she visits her mother. She goes and visits her mother. And there is a moment when she stares up at the wall, if you remember, and she sees pictures of her mother on the wall. And we're seeing another life unfolding before our eyes, and she's recollecting in her own eyes. She was beautiful. She was, as we learn later on, a model. And now she's advanced. And where her kids come for lunch, more of Natalie's past comes out through her husband. And when he says she was a rebellious student, had a dalliance with communism in '68 during the student protests in France, it's all revealed. And as she says, that was then, and now her life is different. Now is now, but she says, but her husband never changed. He's always been a barrel of laughs, as she says, with his morality and his terrorizing of his own students. But her life seems to flow evenly between work, her husband Heinz, her two children, Johann and Chloe, and her mother Yvette. And suddenly, when their daughter finds out that her father is having an affair and tells him he has to choose, that she and her brother tell him that he has to choose, everything will change. He announces his intention to leave her for another woman. I love it when she looks at him, and this couldn't be any more than French, right? When she looks at him and says, couldn't you keep it a secret? Couldn't you keep it a secret? It's again, and she also, expresses the feeling of saying, I thought you would love me forever. I thought we'd be in love forever. A disillusionment. This forces Natalie to reevaluate and begin to discover the lifelong question that a philosopher might ask: what's next? And while she may seem vulnerable when she says to her husband, I thought you'd love me forever, it's not about her feeling weak at that moment, but a realization. It's now a realization that things will change. She also sadly realizes that she has to put her mother in a retirement home. The dominoes are falling. Meeting with Fabian again, she reveals that she's getting a divorce and expresses that she will be alone. That this is what happens to women her age in their 40s. They get tossed in the trash. And he suggests, well, you'll meet someone else. She says, I don't want to meet anybody older. I can't see myself settling down with anybody older. And when he suggests maybe younger, she says, no way, that's not me. And but the thing that most saddens her, as we learn, is giving up the vacation home in Brittany, which belongs to her husband's family, where she raised both a garden and her children. Traveling there, despite Heinz thinking she would go there with the kids following that, she tells him to grow up and face reality. She thinks he's cuckoo. In an interesting moment, trying to get through to her mother's home, there's an interesting scene during that sequence, and she's walking on the beach, and she's sort of getting stuck in the mud. It's a very symbolic moment for me. She's getting stuck in the mud, and she can't get the reception on the phone, and she's receiving a message that there's something wrong with her mother. She hasn't been eating, as she learns when she comes back. And she goes back to Paris to see her and spend time with her. And then the summer break comes and she meets with her students. And we see how much her students, this small group of students that has lunch with her, admires her. And they're telling her that they have a project that they want to start a website, a philosophical website. These high school kids, a philosophical website, and they'd like her to contribute. And she says that, I love the way she says that, if someone has sense, you're hiring me. You're hiring me. She's flattered. She's flattered, but it also is an indication of what a good teacher she is. In an interesting interlude, she decides to go to the cinema, where a man makes a pass. She moves from a seat. He follows her. And she gets up and leaves the theater, and he starts following her again. And we think, oh, this could end very badly. And he says he wants to fall in love with her. And he grabs her and he kisses her, but it doesn't turn into a fight. She just pushes him away. Again, we're in France. I guess this is natural. She just pushes him away, and she says, "No, I don't feel like it. No, I don't feel like it." Just walks away. But it's also a moment where maybe in her mind, but we see it, she is still a desirable woman. She is still a desirable woman. She may be alone, and she may be alone, and she may think about this thing, but she certainly knows where to draw the line. Anyway, when her mother finally passes away, she tells the priest about her mother's life, how she was abandoned by her father, and how she pushed her, though, to become a teacher of philosophy, at which the priest at the eulogy says it is a testament to her mother because her daughter is a philosopher, representing this constant search between doubt and faith, between doubt and faith. At one point, traveling on the bus, right after that, she breaks down in tears for some reason. A young girl is watching her, and she looks out the window, and she sees her ex-husband Heinz, walking with this new woman, and all of a sudden she breaks out into laughter at the irony of it all, of what he's up to, that he never grew up. Then facing another dilemma, when her publisher's team of marketers decide to completely suspend the publication of her book. Her integrity won't allow her to abandon her values. She sits there stone-faced. She has the dignity and self-respect to accept their abandonment with aplomb. Her future may be compromised, much the way the editor explains about her book, but she isn't deterred. And here, as in everything that hits her, she displays a breathtaking depth of feeling. We see her change. She walks out fine, and she even says goodbye. When she visits Fabian at his mountain commune, she finds herself detached from the anarchistic behavior of the group, of these younger people, even telling them, or telling one of them at least, that she was there once and she grew past it. She says, we all should. Fabian tells her that she thinks one way but behaves another, and that he would never be that way. And as she puts it, you're accusing me of being bourgeois. She said, all I want was to be a good teacher. What was important was the most important thing being to teach her students to think for themselves, And he just looks at her. It reminded me, I heard a line in another film once where a character says to a group of young people who are also anarchists, and he says to them, when you're under 30 and you're not liberal, you're a fool. And when you're over 30 and not conservative, you're a schmuck. And that's the way he puts it in the film. We all learn to grow up in certain ways. She returns to Paris, and another year passes. Her grandson is born. She revisits Fabian, who has agreed to adopt the cat Pandora. Pandora, the obese black cat that she inherited from her mother, and who she is allergic to and impatient with, finally able to leave it in good hands. Far from the traditional Pandora, who unleashed evils on the world. This Pandora is an embodiment of the themes in Natalie's life when you think about it. Pampered by Natalie's mother, Pandora hid from whoever else enters her mother's apartment. She's heavy to carry, like the unwanted burdens we all have periodically thrust upon us. But like Natalie, she has a feral intelligence and instinct. This house cat takes off into the forest, but also has the instinct to survive and return home in the morning, bringing Natalie a gift, a little dead mouse, in her instinctual survival and her integrity. Pandora offers a reflection of our wise, warm, and worldly philosopher. And by giving it to Fabian, it's a way to be a reminder to him of who she is. Returning for Christmas, she discovers her ex-husband Heinz, sitting in the darkness, as well as getting him to give back his keys. And despite his being alone for the holiday and trying to play on her sympathy and get an invite, she rushes him out of the house. In the last scene, hosting the Christmas dinner with her children, she lets her daughter eat and tends to the crying baby. And she sings him a little song. And at that moment, with the camera, it's a very interesting shot. The family is eating dinner on one side, on the left, and then the camera swings back to the middle, and we see Natalie and the baby framed on the right. But in the center, as the camera starts to pull back and we hear that beautiful song, the Unchained Melody, being played, the camera focuses on the shelves of books. If you looked at the scene, it's focusing on the shelves of books. And in one sense, that's just what the film is about, those books and what they contain, the traditional function of philosophy, addressing the one essential question: how should we live our life? How should one live their life? And in another sense, it's also the merging in that scene of past, present, and future. Past, present, and future. Isabelle Huppert's performance gives the overall sense that you're watching an actual life unfold, in all its minutiae and enormity. She is in complete control here. As to the cinematography, as in all of Mia Hansen-Love's films, she uses light in a specific way. There's a lot of sunshine streaming in through even the darkest of exchanges. The musical selections provide just the right feeling to the action at hand. The Woody Guthrie tune in Fabian's car is wonderful. It's something new for Natalie to enjoy. She says, as she remarks on listening only to classical music for 20 years, and that's what we heard before when she was driving with Heinz in the car, listening to a Schubert Spiel song, what they call a Spiel song, and not being very happy with it. As Shakespeare had Hamlet once say, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Seeing her world topple and that the realization of her once expected future has now been compromised leaves her open to that possibility of new worlds to explore. While this can be an especially difficult project for anyone, let alone a philosopher, this is what actors do all the time. They explore new worlds. And with Isabelle Huppert's combination of absolutely unbridled instinct and absolute control over the character, Natalie reinvents herself before our eyes. And we believe what we see because Isabelle Huppert is doing it too. Isabelle Huppert is doing it as well. And that's my take on this film, which I still enjoy. I've seen it about 5 times already, and I just adore watching her. And now I'd like to open it up for a little discussion and see how you feel about it, what you have to say about it. So all you got to do is raise your hand and I'll see you. We'll use your little hand gesture as Jackie just did. Hi, Jackie and Larry, go right in.
I like use a hand gesture. You better be careful with that, Shelley.
Yeah.
We-
Well, they don't have that one here, fortunately.
We liked it. I actually thought this was, in a way, kind of an odd thing for me to say, but like a reverse coming of age. It's like she was at a point in her life where I think a lot of middle-aged people get to, where they think everything is great. The kids are doing great, mom's doing great, her marriage is doing great, the book, everything. And all of a sudden her world kind of crashes and she has to pretty much start over again and find herself over again. So that was kind of how I felt, was that it was in its own way. We always talk about coming of age, like for teenagers, but this actually was a coming of age for her too, into a completely different age in her life.
That's great. That's exactly what it is. I mean, it is that. It is that. But it also is a statement. It's a statement that we all face these points. But it's also about dealing with the past, dealing with the present, and working yourself towards the future. When she sees herself as a grandmother, when she goes into the hospital and she's holding the baby, this is going to, and she even mentions it, I think, to Fabian. Now I'm a grandmother. She's reached a new stage and a new path for herself, especially holding the baby at the end. We're hopeful for her. We see the kids on the other side; they're all together. So her life is put back again in a certain way. And she also, the way she deals with her husband, he remained in the same place. He never changed. He stayed a juvenile. And that's the way she treats him.
Well, except for one thing, I did think that scene you're talking about showed exactly what happens to people often too, is that the kids were more adult than the parents were, because here the parents were fighting over who was going to hold the baby. And so they actually both really were a little bit juvenile at that point.
Yeah, especially the way they describe it. He says, it looks like me. She says, no, it looks like me. Don't be silly. And I think, you bring out something interesting, because if you remember, when the father leaves, her daughter Chloe starts to cry. And she looks at her and she says, what's wrong? And it's almost as if the tension between her parents and what happened is affecting her. So give me my baby. She's, give me my baby. That's really what it's all about, and it seemed to be that's what she was feeling at that moment. It's just, but we saw 3 generations in this film. We saw her and her mother. We saw her and her kids. We see her and other kids. And I thought it was so interesting to see this mix of generations going on in the film. But this is not a film Hollywood can do. First of all, they'd have a going off and having an affair with the young guy. It would be ridiculous. It would be ridiculous. This was a very intelligent, very French, as I said, film. And in a way that it deals with its intellectualism and the fact that, it is enlightening to see high school kids studying philosophy and really dealing with it. I thought it was wonderful. Rachel,
Oh, what happened?
you're on.
Wait, hold on, 1 sec. Cancel, okay. So I enjoyed this movie, and I loved when she was in the car way to the farm, and she says, for 25 years, I had the kids and everything else, and now I have freedom. She used the word freedom. And to explore, yes, her whole world has changed, but we're all evolving every day. To get philosophical, we're all evolving, and she has a chance to do over and do herself and think for herself selfishly. She always had to involve her husband, her children, and now it is completely
her, what she wants to do and where she wants to go. And so it's also can be very enlightening. While it's scary to make that leap, but it's also freedom. And she recognized that when she was in the car. And I appreciated that she recognized it, because a lot of people won't. They're saying my world is falling apart, and focus on that negative stuff. But she also realized, I am free now. I can do me. And I did enjoy the choice in music, because I was like, what the heck does Woody Guthrie have to do with this? And then I'm going, yeah, but it's all about, there's all different music out there in the world. And now she can appreciate it and be listening to what she wants to listen to for the first time in a very, very long time. So
Yes. Yeah, you're so right. I mean, it is exactly that sense of freedom that she begins to feel. And the song at the end, the Unchained Melody, certainly is an expression of that. It's a celebration of freedom that she's feeling. Even though she's now a grandmother, she still has her children close to her, and now she has a grandchild close to her. She still feels that sense that she's made the right choices now in moving forward. And she is a person who just keeps moving forward in this. Thank you, Rachel. Eileen? Can you unmute?
I can.
There you go.
Okay. Two things. The book, the Schopenhauer's essays.
Yes.
And the other thing is the name Pandora for the cat, because we think, well, Pandora means a gift, but also Pandora's box. And now we've opened up Pandora's box to this whole new world that she will be able to explore. And what the young lady was just saying, the beautiful young lady before me, this is what she was teaching the kids, to
Yes.
think for themselves, not having to do what her husband told her to do or her mother told her to do. Now she's free to think for herself. Right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So it's exactly what she was teaching, that she will now give that gift to herself.
Yes, it is a self-realization. I mean, he constantly, he is like a child. He's locked in his place. He steals half the books. If you notice, from the apartment, he leaves her a note. He says, I decided to take half the books, his books, so to speak, which were her books. And and there is that constant citation as Schopenhauer. There are other books that she's reading about the life of the mind, about freedom itself. Labyrinth, the book she's reading, is about the liberation of the mind. So we're constantly getting references to that within the story, and she does, and she teaching us students that it's you don't add something in the screenplay that is throwaway, is not, it shouldn't be there. She tells her students towards the end, she says, to desire a thing can make you happier than actually possessing it. She talks about someone specifically, having the desire to be with someone, but it's the desire that brings the happiness as opposed to the realization of it. And sometimes that can make you happier, whereas, you get if you get what you want, maybe be careful. In other words, be careful what you wish for in life. And I think that's, a lesson she's saying to them. To her students, and to think about these things. So I thought that was wonderful.
One more thing, Shelley.
Yeah.
It bothered me that she didn't say to her husband, I want the house in Brittany because I really love it.
Well,
I mean,
it
what is
was,
she getting from this? Nothing.
well, she got the apartment. It's a great apartment, but that was not it was his family's house.
Right.
So I guess in France, she can't get it. So he said to her, I thought you would come back whenever you wanted to with the kids. And she said, I don't want any part of it. It's the past. See, this is about dealing with the past, the present, and the future, and putting them in their
Right.
places. And even though she raised a beautiful garden, she raised her kids on the beach. She said she watched them grow. She watched the flowers and her children grow. It's no longer her place. It's no longer her place. But I love it. There were a couple of comedic moments mixed into that. One was he leaves flowers for her. If you noticed, after the breakup, he leaves a bouquet of flowers and she goes, what the hell? And she takes the flowers. She's trying to jam them into the basket. She
Yeah.
fails that. She puts them into a bag, takes them downstairs to the bin, throws the bag into the bin, walks away, changes her mind. She said, I want that bag. And she just dumps the flowers out and walks away. It's such a natural moment. It is such a great moment of acting that I feel she made that up as she went along, because it was like, just dump the flowers and go back. No, I want the bag. That's acting. I mean, that to me is great acting. I felt it was so real and probably so improvised, knowing Isabelle Huppert. In a sense, she's her own auteur in this film. She's really inhabiting this character and taking control of it for us. And then when she goes to Brittany, after that incident, she says to him, I hope your new woman likes flowers. It was, about the garden, and also about the fact there was a jibe about the fact that he left the flowers. At least that's how I got it at that point. So it was terrific. Susan Pauls. You still have to unmute, Susan.
So
There you go.
I remember how to do this. The ongoing nature of finding yourself, and in each stage of life, I thought was fascinating in the film, that she was protesting in the 60s against the war in Vietnam and things like that. The kids now are protesting the raising of the Social Security date in France from 63 to 65. And they were protesting the fact that their parents, who had worked all their lives, would have to work till 65 years old to get their benefits, where they have no relation to that whatsoever. But you have to have something to fight against. And then she marries, has children, and stops fighting.
Mhm.
She's still in her classes, she's fighting. She's teaching people how to think, but she's not fighting back against her husband. She's not arguing with her children. She's getting the food ready. She's throwing out the trash. She's doing what she's supposed to do. And then suddenly she has to rebel again. She has to find something. And she finds that she can be angry, that she can say no to a man who wants to sleep with her, that she could say no to her husband. And the fact that she doesn't just succumb to the Hollywood idea of a venture with a younger man. So it's the cyclical nature of things, of the different ages of man, so to speak.
Yes.
And she goes through several of these during the film, and you get the past of what she's gone through. And I think all of us, if we look at our lives, we can see chapters, different folios of the lives we've led, and then what do you do in the next life? And I know that I and people my age that I know are all going through this kind of transition as well, to find out what we're going to do now that we can't do what we used to do. And
Thank you.
a fascinating thing. And this movie made me think so much about it, because I live in an assisted living place now. And watching people go through this, now that everything is gone, what do I do? And people find things, they recreate, they become better selves than they were in many cases. So thank you for the film.
Thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. I mean, the film reflects it beautifully. And it's just, and watching her do it, really, impacts on me, impacts on us as an audience, because she does it so well. I mean, when she's sitting there with these kid publishers, the marketing, and they're telling her, well, we gotta do this, we gotta do that to it, and they're totally unconnected to what she's doing and what she's done, and just laying this stuff on the table thinking that they've got the answers, and she just looks at them like they're nuts. The same way, it's the same reaction she has to Fabian and his friends. They're at that stage of, they're rebelling, they're anarchists, they're talking about signing this manifesto, and she says to the woman in the kitchen, she said, I've been there. I said, that's, that was another book. That was another chapter, as you said. And she's vividly seeing all of this coming together. And now when the baby comes, she sees another chapter in front of her eyes. It's presented to her. It's a gift. It's a gift, which is wonderful. So thank you. Yes, very, very, very well said. Who else? Next? Who's now? Karen, go ahead.
Yes. I really enjoyed the movie also, and especially after I figured out we weren't going to be talking about philosophy. but anyway, one thing, the transition was also noticeable in Fabian. He was quite different at the beginning than he was at the end. So you can see about 3 stages for him also, because he wanted to go back to Paris and where he could make more money and have a family, that type of thing. So I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah, he does make that comment. He says, well, we'll have a fan, who knows? But at the first time she goes up, he says to his girlfriend, he says, I think I heard her. I think she's mad at me. I think I heard her. And she wasn't angry. She's just like, he'll grow up too. I think she felt he'll grow up too. I mean, she gives him, it's funny that we mentioned Pandora as being a positive in the film, she, as opposed to the antithesis of opening Pandora's box and all the ills of the world get out. In this case, it was a positive for her, although she had the allergy to the cat, but she's giving it to him. She's giving him Pandora.
Right.
Now you have her. The gift, yeah.
Jelly.
The funny cat. Yes, Eileen.
I don't agree. I thought she was very upset with that remark because she was crying on the bed about it. It hurt her very much because in essence, he was saying, you're a phony. That's what he was saying to her. It was very hurtful. I thought she was extremely distraught by that remark.
I don't know. I don't know if she was distraught by it because she knows who he is, and he's the one that's really being the phony because he's going to change, and she knows it. I mean, if he follows the path he's talking about, he'll wind up becoming a terrorist. She's looking at them and their children. To her, he's a child. And if you remember at the beginning, even I forget it, I think it was her husband says, oh, he's full of himself. He thinks he knows better than everybody else. And I think she understands that. I don't think she was necessarily, I think she's crying. She cries several times in the film. If you notice, she cries on the bus after her mother passes away. She's crying here. I don't know, we don't know exactly what's in her head at any given moment. But I don't know if the emotion was that he heard her because she comes right back to him and gives him the cat. I mean, if she's giving him the cat as an ill present, then I can understand it. But he believed he heard her. And I don't know if she's able to incorporate that and understand where he's coming from. I don't think she felt that she wasn't having anything with him to feel that kind of rejection. He may have been rejecting her lifestyle at the moment, but I think she knows he'll grow up. He'll have to. He's got a
I
life
can-
in front of him.
Well, I do agree actually with Eileen, because it happened right afterwards. And it might not only be hurt, but also that fact that she's older now. I've been where he was. And maybe she's like saying, hey, I was that person. I was that rebellious person. Who am I now?
It's
And it could have
realization.
been a mixture of not exactly hurt, but saying, who the heck am I now? I mean, am I a phony? It caused her to be more introspective about herself and her evolving, you know?
It's an interesting way of looking at it. In other words, is it in the sense that she let him down? See, what she says is, I teach you to think for yourself. And did she let him down in a way that he's not? You know, she because when she says to him, so in other words, he's telling me I'm bourgeois. You know, and is again, is bourgeois being so bad in her case? Because he's saying it's bad.
Well,
But
he's kind
that
of
doesn't
saying, like, you're
necessarily
not
make
hip
it
anymore.
bad.
I think he was saying, like, you're not hip anymore. You're not cool, you know?
Well, maybe
And that was
that's what
hurtful,
it is, but
you
I
know?
think it's essentially, you know, you think one way, you act another. And she's trying to figure out, what is he saying? You know, does he know what he's saying? Because she said, I teach children how to think for themselves. I'm a teacher. That's what I do. That's
And
what I
he
do.
said how inspirational she was to him.
At the
And
beginning,
now
yes.
he's saying, you're full of it. I don't know.
Well,
I
she
didn't like him.
wasn't, though. We know she wasn't full of it. We saw her teach. See, we see the whole picture. We see her teaching. We see her devotion to students. When they come during the summer break, you know, she's sitting with them and they're talking about her effect on them. They're going to start a website. They're gonna invite people to write for them. They'd like her to donate essays to help them with this. So she knows she's accomplishing what she wants. And you saw students sitting there listening to her. You know, whereas at the beginning, when she's talking to her husband, she says, you terrorize them. You terrorize them. She doesn't terrorize her students. She reads to them, she talks to them, and you see them reacting to her. You know, when they're sitting out on the grass, they talk about, and she talks about truth. And she says, you can't always debate the truth. And one student says, well, can't we debate some truth? I mean, he asks her and she says, well, it depends. He says, you know, there's scientific fact. You can't debate that. So it's we see her devotion to what she does. She's very devoted to what she does. So Jackie?
I think part of what the girls are saying too is that with what he said, he made her really look at herself, and it made her go to what she's teaching, to be true to yourself, look at what's inside, and where are you going? And I think that made her stop and think, because I think we all get to that point in our lives where we're just kind of coasting, and it's probably at the level or the age that she was, and this major upset made her rethink everything in her life. And I think that's really what he said.
Well, maybe she's thinking, you know, I'm not young anymore. I'm not like that anymore. And that's why she's crying. I'm not like that anymore. I'm not that person. You know, she has changed. She's moved on to other chapters in her life. So we don't know. It's a combination probably of all of these things. Yeah, Marilyn.
Yeah, I thought that the cat was very important. When the cat is able to just escape and go out on its own, I think that gave her a lot of strength. So I see a symbolism in the two of them. And she was able to give away the cat. The Empress, at that point, she was a person. She was independent as the cat.
And maybe she was crying because Pandora ran away. You know, she didn't have Pandora that night. And you remember how she looked for him, you know, looked for the cat, her, whatever it was, you know, comes back with the mouse the next morning. You know, he says to her, Pandora, it's a survivor. It's a survivor. It has instinct. She has instinct too. Her instincts were to be a survivor, like the cat. Who else? Anybody else? Anybody else want to weigh in? Okay, well, thank you all.
Thank you, Shelley.
For another terrific conversation. And we reconvene in 2 weeks. The next film we come to, we're dealing with modern Italy in 2 aspects, 2 very different looks at modern Italy. I call it the unveiling the faces of tradition and transformation. We have 2 captivating stories. Swan Virgin is the first, and it delves into the depths of a unique Albanian tradition within Italy, where a woman takes a vow. This particular character, this young woman, takes a vow in the society she lives in the mountains to live as a man. Now, that does not mean what you think it means, because you'll see the film. She decides that maybe this is not the life for her, and to escape this destiny, to escape her destiny, she swears to become a virgin and act like a man, thus becoming this Swan Virgin, which is the title of the film. And after more than 10 years in solitude in the mountains, she decides to make a change. Something reawakens in her, and she ventures down to the city. She ventures down into modern Italy, and you will see the result of that story. It's a wonderful story of transformation by another great Italian actress, who I will discuss with you when I see you. So in the meantime, have a good 2 weeks, and I'll look forward to seeing you for Swan Virgin.
I want to
Thank
thank
you.
you,
Shelley.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley.
It was so delightful to listen to the back and forth tonight. And no matter what chapter of life you're each a star in your own videos, because
Yes.
Shelley's videos are all posted on our website, and we get many, many people viewing them. So if you want to share the link with your children, grandchildren, friends, they can all see what stars each of us is by participating in this group. So Shelley, thank you so much. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks. And I hope I'll see people in person on Sunday at the library. Listen, everyone, it's great to be on Zoom, but it's time that we get back together in person if we can. And everyone should just try to get out, meet some new people, and be in real time with people. So I
have a question. Can I ask a question? Are we going to still do Zoom and the Sunday, or the other?
Well, we would only do a special Sunday program once. But we
Okay,
continue
okay.
to
Because
do
I
Zoom.
look forward to this too, because I watch it on my own and then we
Yeah.
discuss.
This is
Just
not
the
going away, Rachel.
No.
This is not
Okay.
going away.
Well, I'm
We
so
would-
glad for that.
You know, Hannah asked if I wanted to come down one Sunday and maybe we can watch a film together, and you can all hug me. You know, you can all realize that
I
I'm
said
real.
to Shelley, people want to know that you're not just an AI kind of
That I'm
person.
not this
You're
big,
real,
yeah.
You know, so anyway.
I'm in Philadelphia, so I'm delighted to join you folks because
Okay,
of
well,
Shelley.
And Susan, you're always welcome.
Susan, we'll give you enough notice so you can just fly down and spend the day in Florida.
If I could, I would, believe me.
Okay. All right, everyone, have a great week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Good
Thank
night.
you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Hannah.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.